Welcome to Lunch with Legacy Leaders, a weekly talk show with local and national thought leaders on issues impacting the Black community. Now introducing our host, Miss Ann Marie Sorrell.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Lunch with Legacy Leaders. I am your host, Ann Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group. Before we get started with our broadcast today, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Broward Health, AARP, and the Florida Lottery, as well as the African American Black Alzheimer's Disease Initiative at the John P. Hussman Institute for Human Genomics, University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. If you are someone that is experiencing loss of memory or memory problems, or if you know someone who is experiencing those problems, please contact their research team for more information at 877-686-6444. Now, today we have one of my good friends. I consider her a mentor as well. And she is just an amazing community leader, Miss Yolanda Cash-Jackson with us.
Hello.
Welcome.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
A little weathered, but I am here. It's a very busy day in Tallahassee.
Well, I'm sure we're going to dive into all of that. So I'm so happy that you were able to make time, because I know this time of year, it's really hard to get you and others that do what you do, to do anything outside of, legislation. So thank you for being here. For those who do not know, Miss Yolanda Cash-Jackson, who is a shareholder at Becker and Polyakov, she is a double gator from the law class of 1990 and is among the power elite when it comes to lawyer lobbyists in our state capital. Her untraditional path to becoming a lawyer who influences state policy at the highest levels is a model for new lawyers seeking meaning in their law practice. Ms. Jackson knows political leaders by their first name and changes people's lives through institutional and programmatic initiatives. Ms. Jackson tapped into Florida Blue Key while in law school. So just a couple of quick highlights for, some of your amazing accomplishments. You're active in very diverse organizations, including the University of Florida Foundation, the Levine College of Law's Law Center, Association Board of Trustees, the Orange Bowl Committee, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, the National Social Action Committee, the Urban League of Broward County, and the National Bar Association. You also, of course, have won many, many awards, including most recently named as Most Effective Lawyer in 2018. So we're going to actually have you kind of share your own story. Those are just a few highlights of, and I definitely can't miss this highlight. You rose to one of the highest ranks, or the highest rank in your law firm, serving as one of only 7 shareholders who formed the Becker Management Committee. So that is an amazing, amazing accomplishment. So in your own words, Ms. Jackson, tell us, how did you go from law student to lawyer to lobbyist and becoming one of Florida's top lobbyists and one of Florida's top Black female lobbyists, or probably the top Black female lobbyist in the state of Florida?
Prayers of the righteous availeth much. I would say just making sure to stay involved, and whether was involved in political campaigns, involved in political issues, and just having a passion for advocating for people who might not have the opportunity to advocate for themselves. And that doesn't necessarily mean just poor people. It's businesses, large businesses. Sometimes they don't have the opportunity to advocate in a correct manner. So time over 22 years is what this has developed into, and it's changed a lot, especially this session.
Well, I definitely want to get into that in a moment. So for our audience who may not be familiar with, what the role and responsibility and importance of a lobbyist is. Can you just share a little bit more, elaborate a bit more on, what does your day look like? What does a lobbyist do?
Okay. Every day is a different day, and that's what I love about this job. You never know when you wake up what you're going to see. You can plan for the day, which may include meetings, which may include some briefings of staff. We get together a lot. We communicate a lot within our lobbying organization. It may be dinners, like we were out for dinner last night. In this COVID world, that was a little unnerving. But it gave us an opportunity to speak with the chair of the Appropriations Committee, who doesn't look like me. We're not the same party, but we were able to talk to her about our issues. And that's really what a lobbyist does. The lobbyist can reach people that you wouldn't ordinarily reach because they have access. They have access to people, they have access to information, and they share information. That is extremely, essentially what a lobbyist does.
Awesome. Absolutely. So you're currently in Tallahassee, and the 2021 legislative session has officially kicked off. And so I think a lot of times people don't really understand that there are there's several hundred bills that go up for consideration, laws that go up for consideration. Sometimes, 100 or so are passed each year, and many people don't even know what they are until it, impacts them directly. So what are some of the hot button issues or bills that people should be watching?
Oh boy, there are about 3,000 bills that have been filed. Many of them are appropriations bills. The House of Representatives now requires, at least for the last few years, require there to be a bill for every appropriation request or member project. So you have those, but there are some that stand out, some that were heard yesterday. The HB1, which is the peaceful protest bill, that's certainly one that law enforcement is watching, that municipalities are watching, that civil rights organizations are watching, that the governor is watching. And that bill would provide for penalties for folks who are disturbing the peace or engage in violent conduct during protests. And so the debate is whether or not you should have a right as an American citizen to protest peacefully, and whether or not you should be responsible for what the consequences are, whether or not you cause them or not. So that's essentially very simple, that debate. Then there are liability issues connected with COVID, whether or not your employer, or you're an employer, whether or not you should be responsible if your employee says that they got COVID at work. And if you're a frontline worker, I mean, how would you draw the line? Where would you draw the line as to liability? But if you're on the other side of the aisle, the other side of the issue, where you may go to a hotel, you don't expect that you go get COVID at a hotel. You would think that they would take precautions. And then how can you follow that chain? So there are a couple of bills related to liability that are going through the process. Then there's one huge bill allowing for the I wouldn't say the expansion of vouchers, but certainly a consolidation of vouchers. And I use those words carefully because different people have different views on what the bill really does. But essentially, it takes a number of current voucher programs and enhances them. That's the word, enhances them. I represent a few school districts, two school districts, Dade and Broward, who are the largest school districts in the state. And so we are concerned about public schools, but this is all about private schools and what their role will be and what they would be offering to students in the state of Florida. So those are three pretty big ones that I
Yeah.
think are going through. There's one more that I'll mention, and that's PIP. We all have PIP on our insurance, and there's an effort to repeal PIP, which would, in some folks, view shift liability. So that's four good big ones. What some of those are what we call food fights, and it's between two industries. The others really could affect your lives personally.
Wow. Now, are there any issues, or are any of these issues potentially issues that would go on a ballot to voters? Or how does any of these issues go from legislation to, becoming a ballot issue?
So that's interesting you should raise that. One of the bills that's been filed is to eliminate the Constitution Revision Commission, which played a very big role in some of the issues that we were concerned about, returning citizens, the election or election of, not election of school board members, but term limits for school board members. That has been a potential constitutional revision, potential ballot initiative. But ballot initiatives get to be on the ballot in a number of ways. There are a few out there, but I don't perceive them being successful this year.
Wow. Okay. Now, and thank you so much for that information. How does, well, I'll get to that in a second. You are also doing some lobbying, and you've expanded nationally.
Yes.
And so you're doing work in DC as well. So in addition to, which I know you're probably right now knee deep in Florida legislation, but of course every day we have issues that are happening in Congress. So what are some of the issues that maybe we should also be focused on in the Capitol right now?
So Washington presents a very great opportunity. Whenever you have a change in power, a change in structure provides a great big opportunity. Essentially, we started out as just a local, then state lobbying practice within our law firm. And several years ago, I guess now it's about 8-9 years, we expanded to Washington, D.C. The change in leadership because of some of our personal relationships, and I'm proud to say I've supported President Biden and my link sister, Kamala Harris. And so we have worked closely with them throughout the campaign. As a member of the National Bar Association, we've been extremely active with the administration on the appointment of judges. For the firm, we represent the Hispanic Bar Association as well as a White House liaison. We also represent the National Bar Association. We represent a number of municipalities in Washington, so we do state work for them as well as Washington work, which makes so much sense because it is sometimes seamless. We represent a number of large community-based organizations that would not have had the opportunity to have access without us, because gone are the days of what they call earmarks, where a member of Congress could say, you know what, put $1 million in the budget for them. Although there's much talk about it coming back. So we're watching that. If earmarks comes back, that's a game changer for a lot of our local organizations. But so we are looking at the appointment of, I apologize for the noise.
No problem.
We're looking at the appointment of federal judges, a huge, huge issue. Yesterday, the George Floyd Policing Act passed the House. We're certainly watching that very carefully. There'll be the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, we're watching that very carefully. And then, of course, the appropriation issues. We have the largest Black caucus that we've ever had in Washington, with many of them as chairs of committees. Congressman G.K. Butterfield is chair of the House Judiciary. We don't have as much diversity on the Senate side, but we certainly have Senator Cory Booker, Senator Warnock, who was just elected. And then on the other side, we have Senator Tim Scott, who's a Republican. So we have 3 Black males in Washington. What we don't have is a Black female in the state, in the U.S. Senate. And that's something we're also looking at in terms of diversity within our representation.
Absolutely. Wow, that's great information. So definitely some key issues there to watch. So how does, like, as a citizen, what is our role during legislative sessions or as Congress is looking at different bills to pass? What is our role and how can we have a voice in the process?
So I tell people that you have no excuse about not being informed. This little thing right here that connected to an internet is power. So you can go to myflorida.com and keep up with daily. Go to the Florida channel. It is real time to be able to watch bills, watch the discussion, watch the debate. And so we have to pay attention and hold folks accountable. If you don't know what's going on, then you can't hold them accountable. I watch very closely what my representatives in state senators do, as well as my members of Congress. With technology has brought the Capitol closer to everyone. You can watch votes. You can make appointments. We're in the land of sunshine, the Sunshine State. And even with COVID, legislators have made themselves available for meetings. Sometimes it's a little hard to get meetings, and that's why you have a lobbyist, because we know the way to get those meetings done. But generally, I think particularly those legislators that represent our communities make themselves more than available for discussion on bills. Don't wait till it passes and then complain. You need to pay attention all along, and they want your input. I can tell you as a lobbyist, if a legislator hears from their constituent something different than the position that I'm taking, 99% of the time, they're going to take the side of the constituent because that constituent voted for them. But if you say nothing, then they don't know how you feel.
So is it just, so I'm sure each person doesn't, can't meet with thousands and thousands of constituents on a particular issue. So is there a way to, is it emails? Is it phone calls? Are there petitions? Like, what else?
You can email, and you can do so through the website, or you can call. And I guarantee you that they count the number of calls that they get on particular issues. You say, I am opposed to House Bill 1, you really need to have the bill number, first of all.
Okay.
Then if you have the sponsor, that's even better. And each bill passes through committee. If you know where the bill is in committee, that's also helpful. So that the legislator can respond accordingly. But they respond to people calling. More than likely, they'll ask you your address because they want to hear from people in their district, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. This session is different because we don't have groups of folks coming up to Tallahassee. We had Children's Week, we had Bikers Week, we had Delta Days on the Capitol, we had AK Days on the Capitol. And so most of those meetings will be held virtual this time.
Wow,
so
it
allows more people to participate. I know in one group that I'm working with now, they aren't coming for another 2 weeks, and they already have 500 people who have registered.
Wow.
They're used to doing social action. I'm gonna leave that right there.
That is well, and I think that's the silver lining between the current affairs that we're in with the pandemic is that the virtual technology has definitely allowed us to have the opportunity to be more engaged and to have a voice at the table, because you're right. Like, there are many days at the Capitol that I'm like, man, I wish I could go to Delta days or Palm Beach County days or whatever the day is.
Right.
And, oftentimes there's probably a conflict or just scheduling. But now it's, right here at your computer, your fingertips, and you can listen in and speak up and be a part of that. So how does, if you're not a part, so I'm trying to go through the process here for people to be able to understand. So if they go to the myflorida.com website, and will they be able to see all of the 3,000 bills that were submitted? And then
it's a searchable database, either by number or subject matter. It even has, if I recall, I don't have it in front of me, but you can even search by year. So if you wanted to see if a bill was filed the year before, it may be under a different bill number, but you certainly by subject area you can see. What's interesting, when you have a lot of new legislators, everybody thinks that they have a great brand new idea. And the advantage of being a rusty dusty lobbyist of 22 years is you say, okay, yeah, that one's gonna die. But some of them are very good ideas. I mean, we have an amazing group of legislators. We have a diverse group of legislators. We have 6 Black lawyers that are now in the legislature. We've never had 6 before. We have our first openly gay woman, Black woman, who is serving, who is a lawyer. We have an openly gay male senator, which is certainly admirable, something that we've never had before. We have in the House, we have people from different backgrounds, lawyers, doctors, and so it is a citizen legislature. And now they're starting to look like the citizens. We have 2 House members who have toddlers, five months. I think they're a week apart, and they're 5 months old. And they're on the floor, which is amazing. I mean, when has it that we've had a real mother talk about mother issues? And so that I'm looking forward to those debates, and it's already reshaping some of the debates and asking questions about things that you wouldn't normally know about. So
wow,
I'm looking forward to that.
that sounds really exciting. I mean, for those of us that are like political nerds.
We have political nerds. We have 14, I think it was 14 Black women in the legislative process. And for
Wow.
those of us who wear what we call the reds, we have 5 deltas, which is not quite historic. We've had 5 before. In 2000, we had 5.
Wow, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. Speaking of women, Jessica says she'll make 15 for us next year.
Okay.
So speaking of women, Black women in particular, in leadership in politics, what is your take on this rise of Black women in leadership roles and political roles, whether it's in a corporate boardroom or in, the political legislative floors? What is your take on this? Even yourself, just your ascension to various leadership heights and recognition.
So 99% of Black women voted for Biden. 91%.
Wow.
91% of Black women thought it was important that we have a vice president who looked like them. I have a T-shirt that says "My VP looks like me," and you can't discount what that means. Black women have been leading debates about politics, about voting for a very long time. Fannie Lou Hamer, Barbara Jordan, Shirley Chisholm. So this is nothing new. Dorothy Height. This is nothing new to us. Galvanizing and working towards taking care of the family. That's what we do. So I am not surprised by the level of commitment. What COVID did was allow us to coalesce. If you are in a Black women's organization, you had Zoom calls with 300 and 400 women. I was on a Zoom call with a group, Women Black Women, which is a national organization. We had 1,200 women on a Sunday night, and that grew from 90 to 1,200. Serious, serious, serious. So I am not surprised about our ability to coalesce. I'm surprised it took so long, and I'm surprised that people are surprised that we are somehow taking our rightful place in rooms and at tables. We still have a very long way to go. We talk about systemic racism. Let it be known that systemic sexism is alive and well. Um, and we have to work through that. What does that all mean for our girls? What does that mean for folks that are in the pipeline, women who are in the pipeline? What does that mean for those of us who, as my grandmother would say, need to go sit down somewhere eventually? Will we be able to step out of the way and have a pathway for younger women? Will we train? Will we teach younger women how to fish? Will younger women accept the guidance done one way when they think it should be done another way, which is a challenge. So what to make of this is I'm excited. I can still tell you that we still have less than 10 Black women lobbying in Tallahassee in any manner. We've had at least two major firms that over I guess it was last year, at the end of last year, hired two Black women. One of them I just saw in a meeting, and I'm excited for them. I'm excited for them because it is a great profession. It pays decently, but I wonder whether or not they can withstand the test of time, because it's not easy.
Right.
It's not easy. I tell people, people say, "Oh, you went to University of Florida twice, and you're a lawyer." Listen, I learned politics at what we used to call Manor Park. That's what I learned politics. You know, I learned politics in Girl Scouts. I learned politics in Sunday school. I learned politics by hard knocks and understanding that you tell the truth, that you don't get a second time to make a first impression, that your integrity is very, very important, and you don't leave people to guess. People don't have to guess as to where I stand on certain issues. And if they don't have to guess, then they won't bring you mess.
I love that. Absolutely. So speaking of, and I think you're a good example of creating a way to pass on information, pass the torches. You actually just formed a national lobbyist association.
Yes. So yeah, we a good friend of mine in Alabama, and we used to see each other at these conferences. And he was also in the private sector, what we call contract lobbyists. People hire us to lobby on their behalf, mainly companies. And he called me one day. He said, "Yolanda, you know what? I've done some research, and there is not an association of Black state lobbyists. There are Black MBAs, there are Black journalists, there are Black lawyers, there are Black everything, but not state lobbyists." And I trust them dearly, and we decided that we would form this group. Formed it with another lobbyist who is a in-house lobbyist. That is, he works for a company, and we started the National Black Professional Lobbyists Association, and we just had our 1-year anniversary and celebrated by a summit where we brought in the Speaker of the House in Maryland. We had the minority leader in Tennessee, our own Mayor Daniela Levine Cava was on a panel talking about municipal lobbying. It was amazing, and we are growing. We have a clubhouse room now. We've done a couple of clubhouse rooms. which has been very interesting. There's a lot of interest in becoming a lobbyist. And most of us, Greg included, myself, I knew one woman who was a lobbyist, and she was in Indiana and lobbied for an insurance company, and she was my first client once I started lobbying in Florida.
Wow. Wow. Well, and how does one learn more about the association?
So you can go to nbpla.org, and you'll see some of the seminars that we've done, webinars that we've done, one on making money moves, and certainly visit the summit, and you can become a member. Because we are going to switch to a member-only platform very, very shortly. So we're trying to give folks a chance to get through their legislative sessions, and then we'll shut it down, because now we're getting inquiries about companies who want to hire lobbyists to work in-house. And so those should be protected and left for members.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Well, no, thank you so much for all this information. So is there, before we close out, because I want to be mindful of your time, what is one takeaway that you would like to leave with our audience, or a golden nugget that you'd like to leave with our audience?
Well, I couldn't let the day go without recognizing the recognition that Legacy Magazine put together of the Black elected officials in Dade and Broward County. And I call it the Wakandanism of South Florida. And I've not seen it presented the way that Dexter Bridgman and MIA Media, am I saying that correct? The
Yes.
way that it was presented. And it was amazing to me. So I want to say hats off for recognizing that the influence in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach is never going to be the same. We're going to start seeing Black lobbyists down in Miami-Dade County. If you haven't already, you're going to see Black lobbyists down in Broward County. They're going to be in Miramar, all of those places where we have now become the majority and decision makers about how vendors, contracts, lobbying contracts, procurement contracts, all of that is not controlled by us. Shame on us if we don't see a difference. So, yeah, so Legacy, I salute you for that, because I thought I was the only one who saw it. So,
I love it. And I think that was a strong point for those who now have those leadership roles to make a even greater impact in ensuring economic opportunities.
I want to imply that they are. They are. I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it. They are. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, no, thank you so much, Ms. Jackson, for all this information that you've imparted on us today. This has been, I wish we could stay longer. You and I can talk for hours.
We should just open up a live chat. We should do a clubhouse room. We should. I'll follow up with you on that.
So, stay with us for 1 second. I just have a couple of quick announcements. I want to thank our sponsors one more time, Broward Health, AARP, and the Florida Lottery, and also the African American Black Alzheimer's Disease Initiative at the John P. Husband Institute for Human Genomics, University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. Make sure you check out our Black History Month issue, which is still available at miamediagroup.com. We will be having our Power issue coming out very soon. Nominations just closed, so I can't wait to see all of those amazing honorees around South Florida as we celebrate Black excellence. Please be sure to join us next week as we have another special guest, Ms. Carol Hilton, who is the president and CEO of Career Source Broward. And remember to tune in to our show Soul, hosted by Miss Nikki Jellin, every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. as we disseminate intellectual entertainment on fashion, arts and culture, relationship, mental health, and food in South Florida. You can check that out on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. And again, thank you so much, Yolanda, for being here with us. Everyone, please share this video. Please mark your calendar and join us again next Thursday at noon.